Hello everyone, here I am today again with another video. This is a video from hell and a laptop from hell. This video is more than a month, probably 6 weeks in the making. And my intention with this video was to recycle, reuse Lenovo Yoga 2 and repurpose it with Android or something similar. And my experience was an absolute nightmare. I'm finally getting around to finishing the video. So let's get started. Windows 10 is really quite unbearable on this thing, and I've had to give up using it because of it. So what I think I really should have done is made a mini series out of this and have 4 or 5 parts. Review each operating system separately and then come in with a final video at the end. And I do realize I made a huge mistake in my workflow with this video, but I figure I'm going to release it anyways because I want you to see the kind of things that can go wrong when you don't plan properly or you make the wrong plan and things inevitably fail. This video didn't turn out how I'd hoped, but I'm going to release it anyways for you, and I hope at least you gain some information, knowledge, or enjoyment out of my failure here. And we're going to go to configuration and just make sure a few things are set. So we have AHCI set, which is pretty standard. And over on security, secure boot, we have to turn that off if we want to boot from Ventoy, which I'm using. Some of these OSs don't play nicely with secure boot, so I'm turning that off. And it says disabled. Platform mode is user mode and secure boot standard. Okay, so that's all set and good to go. And then under the boot menu, we just have to make sure that we have USB boot turned on. EFI is turned on as well. Okay, so as you can see right now, from the EFI menu, we have Android x86, the hard drive, which I do have PrimeOS currently installed on, and then EFI USB device as well, which is where all my images are on Ventoy. So we're just going to exit saving changes. Yes. And we're going to go hit F12 to bring up the boot menu. Okay, and then we're going to boot. All right. So Ventoy comes up here, and I have a number of different things we're going to try. So first of all, I wanted to try, when I started this project, I wanted to try Android x86 and see if it would work, and it sort of is working. But we're going to go through the install. I'm going to do a complete install of it and show you the issues that I ran into. And then I'm going to go into ChromeOS Flex. I'm going to install that and see how that works out, and then over to PrimeOS. So we're going to go Android, and we're going to boot in normal mode and see where it takes us here. All right, so we're going to go down. Now, I did try this one time, just doing the installation, and then, but the problem with this, doing it this way, is then you have to set up all the partitions yourself. And I already had Windows on here, so it's best to go to Advanced Options instead, and then go to Auto Install to Specified Hard Disk. Now, if you do it this way, it's going to completely wipe out the hard disk that you already have in the machine. So I don't recommend doing this if you do have one of these devices or a similar device, and you do intend to, I would say, if you want both operating systems at the same time, this is not what you do. You'd actually go back and then partition off the drives, which I'm not going to cover in this video. But anyways, we're going to do auto install to specified hard disk. And it's going to run through its boot up procedures here. So here we are at the startup. So you have the choice of where to install. I'm obviously not going to install it to the USB stick, but I am going to install it to the hard drive. Hit OK. You've chosen the auto installation. The installer will erase the whole /deb/SDA, which is the first hard disk, and install Android. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I do. And we're going to run through the whole process here. Formatting partition. And this is going to take a little while, so we'll just speed up the footage at this point. And through the magic of editing, And as a side note, the reason why I'm not doing this through a capture device is because the Lenovo device doesn't put out HDMI output on the laptop. As you can see, I switched over to the USB capture device, which is plugged into the HDMI port, and we get nothing yet. So for whatever reason, text modes and whatnot do not show up on the Lenovo device. All right, here we go. We're at 66%. We're getting there. It's been about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. We're also going to do some tests today to see how fast each one of these systems is to install. So, all right, so we made it to this far now. It is checking the inodes, blocks, and sizes, so just doing some basic checks before it does the install. All right, pass 1 and 2 are now done. Checking directory connectivity, still quite slow. I mean, it is an older hard drive, 12-year-old hard drive or something, 500 gigabytes. I should probably put an SSD in it, but I wanted to test it stock without doing any upgrades to it. In retrospect, I come to realize that not installing an SSD and running it with the old slow hard drive was a big issue that you'll come to see, as I did eventually install a SSD into this thing. All right, so here we are at the start. Android x86 installed successfully. So not only did it do the formatting, but it just did everything behind the scenes for us. So that wasn't too bad. What we're going to do now is do a reboot. All right, so here we are back at the basically boot menu. And so Android x86 here, this is just the grub. Yeah, there's the website at the bottom. So we're just going to hit OK, and we're going to see how this turns out. All right, it's made it to the console. No, I don't actually have to type anything to get into the GUI. All right, so the Android logo has appeared. Let's see if it switches over to HDMI now. All right, so we are on HDMI now. I haven't stopped doing the recording, and I think it is taking a little bit longer to load up. I'm going to do one reboot and see if it speeds up a bit, but hi there. All right, so here we are. English, United States. That's good enough for me. I'm going to go click Start, connect to Wi-Fi, and actually what we're going to do here is plug in my USB network adapter to this. So just give me a moment. The USB adapter is a StarTech USB 3.0 to gigabit Ethernet adapter from who knows when. All right, so I got the network adapter plugged in, and the beauty is I've pre-tested each one of these systems, and they all work with this generic StarTech USB adapters, Ethernet adapter as well. So that's quite nice in case you don't want to connect via Wi-Fi. Okay, so first problem here right now is Android setup isn't responding. Close and wait. Okay, so this is the constant issue that I was getting with the Android x86 on this particular laptop. And so let's see if I can click. There we go. Okay, now let me go down there. So I'm going to go skip, continue, just a second. Okay, I'm not going to copy. I don't want to do any of that. Checking info, and I'm going to switch back to the HDMI here. All right, back on the HDMI. Bring data in. It keeps asking you over and over again. It really wants your private information. Okay, close that. Here we go, back. Big circle. Don't copy. Hopefully I can get through it this time before it skips through. Well, so in my prior attempt, I did manage to get past this screen. However, this time I'm not able to. Okay, so what I'm going to do is unplug the network adapter and see if I can get past the screen. skip, continue. Hopefully it'll let me pass there. Okay, good. At least we got this far now. Next. Yes, I am in Eastern. Yeah, no. I guess it doesn't even really matter, but at this point, you know, I'll leave it on just for the sake of, yeah, sure, whatever. Accept. Not now. We're not going to set up skip anyways. Right, so hopefully when the setup is done. Okay, so we finally got in. If I was using the touch screen on it, I would go to quick step, but because I'm using a mouse in this video, I'm going to go to taskbar. Just click always. And here we go. Right, so we got connected here. And we have everything we need, I believe. So we have the calculator, calendar, Gmail, Play Store. Now, phone, and you can sync it just like regular Android. You can sync it to your phone and whatnot. Now, there was some things that supposedly I should be able to have done to get this working correctly. So I'm going to plug the Ethernet adapter back in and see if I can get through this process now, since I got at least to the desktop. So at this point in the video, I was stumbling around quite heavily, and also there were some editing issues with this as well, with some sync. So this was another part that was driving me absolutely insane, and there's a lot of cuts in this section as well. It's very tricky to do with this mouse and this HDMI setup for some reason. Play Store. Let's see what happens this time. Sign in. Well, I don't think we're going to get anywhere. This is what happened last time. It just kept crashing. Now, the first time I went through this, it was here. Okay. So here we go. We have Android x86 options. Now, the enable native bridge is not enabled. Okay, so I'm going to turn that on. And I don't think this is going to fix it, but this is what the forums say to do. But okay, so we have the native bridge turned on now. And if I go back, let's just close this out and make sure the settings actually... See? Uh-oh. Now it's sort of locked up on me. The mouse is not responding. So this is kind of why I gave up on the whole Android x86 thing for this laptop. And I've tried older versions. No, now it's downloading an update or something. Interesting. The mouse is sort of not moving, but it is moving. I don't know what's happening here. Yeah, if you can see in the top left corner there, it's a little download icon. Anyways, but one of the other things that did work on this, the auto rotation worked properly on this. And other than the apps issue, I would have stuck with this. But because I can't get the Play Store working, now the taskbar isn't even responding. So yeah, I've had to kind of give up on this. So this is my experience with Android x86 on this Lenovo Yoga 2. So I'm not going to force you to go through any more of this, but yeah. So it's time to call it quits. I could probably get it working if I spent hours and hours and hours, but so just when things couldn't get any possibly worse, while I was recording, there was an audio issue, started cutting out and making all kinds of funny sounds, and you'll hear them right here.
It was actually a lot easier than I had initially thought. All I had to do was update the Play services. So when I was in the screen there, I clicked on the three dots and did it manually. And as you can see here, I am logged in as myself. It is taking a bit longer, but it is eventually coming up here. There you go. So everything's here. So there you go. It is working as expected. So we're just going to run the YouTube test here. I'm just installing YouTube app and we'll see if it drops any frames.
At this point in the video, the audio was completely gone, and I was trying to do stats for nerds to find out how fast it was going. So
as you can see here,
I'm pretty sure at this point in the video there was a lot of cursing and swearing going on. I did get the audio back, but unknown to me, it started recording at 44 hertz, kilohertz, instead of 48, which I usually use for everything else.
So yeah, it seems to be working well, at least in this regard. Alright, as you can see here, I tried booting up Angry Birds and it's a failure to initialize. So that's a wash. You can also see here that I tried to get the hill climb racing working as well, but I would just get stuck on this screen and the whole system was just kind of locking up. So gaming with Android x86 just doesn't seem like the way to go. So we're going to have to put that in the fail category.
Rather than go through any more of this, what I'm going to basically do is just put into a chart what actually does work and what doesn't work for each of the Android distributions. So for Android x86, we have the auto rotating, which was working fine. HDMI out was working just fine. The Ethernet adapter, the touchscreen works, but only if it's not plugged into the HDMI port. We had Play Store support only after I did the manual update. Native bridge support had to be turned on manually. And did the Wi-Fi work out of the box? Yes. Power buttons work, volume buttons work. Rotation lock, it acts as the home key. The audio does work over HDMI. The install time was 8 minutes and 14 seconds, which was a little slow. First boot was 1 minute and 19 seconds, and the second boot was 46 seconds. Responsiveness was not too bad compared to the others, but not perfect. The built-in camera, mic, brightness controls, the SD card reader all work just fine. Where this distribution has issues is with games and some apps. The Alt-Tab behavior works as app scroller, and I had no issues casting to a TV or device with the casting support. On-screen keyboard only works if you turn it on manually, and there was no Bluetooth support because the laptop doesn't support it in this version. And in laptop mode or tablet mode behavior, turns the keyboard off, but the touchpad still works, which is kind of annoying, but not much I can do about that. My overall impression, it works, but it's finicky. Some of the showstoppers were the apps and games, obviously, and would I recommend it? Yes, maybe for business purposes or light use, but not for gaming or anything that requires a lot of app support. All right, we're back at the boot manager, and we're going to try a different system. So I guess ChromeOS Flex is what we're going to try next. So I have unfortunately with ChromeOS Flex, I was not able to get it to work with Ventoy, so I created a USB stick specifically for it. So we're going to boot from that stick here. And I managed to download an ISO file for that. So if I remember at the end of this video, I'll put a link to where you can find the ISO files for ChromeOS Flex that you can install rather than going through the web browser, because the instructions they had on the website didn't work for me. The plugin didn't work, I guess because I'm not on an OS Flex or a ChromeOS device. So I just found the ISO and I actually used a imager, not a bootloader, an imager to put on the USB stick. I think I used Rufus. Okay, so here we are at the desktop, and it saved my settings to the USB stick, interesting enough, because I did a live boot to see how this is. And let's switch over to the HDMI as well. Lovely, lovely bars. The joys of computer technology. All right, so I couldn't switch to HDMI, but I'm here, and I clicked on Install ChromeOS Flex, and we're going to do that. Install ChromeOS Flex and erase the hard drive. So just like previously, it's going to wipe out the entire hard drive, and we're going to click Install. And here we go. Let's see how long this takes. I think it took quite a bit longer than the Android x86 the last time I did this. All right, so it's done and it's restarting. Okay, let's remove the stick. Okay, it's booting up. We're switching over to HDMI here. And just like Android x86, it is a little bit slow to start up here. All right, welcome to ChromeOS Flex. That took quite a while to boot, but it's finally loaded. All right, so the HDMI is still not working as intended. Do you want to activate ChromeVox, the built-in screen reader for ChromeOS? Absolutely no. Continue without ChromeVox. All right, so we're going to get started here. So for ChromeOS Flex, these are the things that worked. The auto rotate oddly did not work. The HDMI out does work with extra options as well. The best selection. The Ethernet adapter works. The touchscreen works if it is in mirrored mode. Play Store support, sadly no. Native bridge support, no. Does the Wi-Fi work out of the box? Yes. Power button and volume buttons do work. Rotation lock button does absolutely nothing. The audio does work over the regular HDMI connector. The install time was a little less than Android x86 at 6 minutes and 46 seconds. The first boot was 1 minute and 7 seconds. Second boot was 39 seconds. And the responsiveness was by far the best. This was the fastest, the one that I tested. Does the built-in camera work? Yes. The mic works. Brightness controls, SD card reader, and obviously the Angry Birds or Hilltop Racing does not work. All right, so what I did to get the touchscreen work on this is press the Shift key, the Windows key, or your special function key, which would be search key, I guess, if you had an actual device, and T, and that turns the touchscreen on and off. Okay, good to know. Alt-Tab behavior is the app scroller. Can it cast to a TV or device? Yes, obviously. On-screen keyboard pop-up? Yes, and it works really well compared to the other alternatives. Bluetooth support is not a factor, and the tablet mode is the same as the others. Keyboard and off, and the touchpad remains on. Overall impression, it was very nice and smooth and slick. However, without the App Store or Play Store support, I would not recommend it unless you're doing it for browsing, webmail, and are staying completely in the Google Chrome atmosphere. I can do a YouTube here, and let's see how fast the videos are. Okay, let's turn on stats for nerds and see what kind of performance we're getting here. So far, so good. 0 dropped. Let's set this to 1080 by 60. No, I don't want notifications. Thank you very much. Okay, so it seems to be doing 1080. Yeah, 1080p. Quite sufficiently here. No problems to report. Okay, so no issues here. We can close stats for nerds, and we'll just stop that. Okay. So we know it would work quite nicely. All right, so here we are back again at the boot menu, of course. And we're going to go down to USB stick. And this time, we're going to try PrimeOS. Mode, PrimeOS Live installation. And just like Android x86, we're going to go to Advanced Options. And auto install to specified hard disk. I don't want to mess around with the partitions. So for PrimeOS, out of the box, the auto rotate works. The HDMI out does not work out of the box. Ethernet adapter works. Touchscreen works. Play Store support is there. Native bridge support is built in. Does the Wi-Fi work out of the box? Yes. Power button, volume button, and the rotation lock button. The rotation lock button actually brings up the Prime menu. PrimeOS was quite quick compared to the other two. So let's do a reboot. Does the regular audio, HDMI audio work? No, but if you can get the HDMI working, then I suppose it would. Install time is 2 minutes and 11 seconds, but that seemed a little weird to me. I'm not sure why people are calling it spinning rust. Hard drives don't really rust. I've never seen a hard drive rust in the last, I don't know, 35 years I've been using them. The first boot up time was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The second boot time was 1 minute and 37 seconds. It was somewhat responsive and snappy. The built-in camera and mic do work. The brightness controls work, and the SD card reader also works. Angry Birds and Hilltop Racing also both work, but I had lost the footage. The Alt-Tab behavior brings up the app scroller. The casting to TV or device does work, but weirdly, it was only working on the Wi-Fi for me. Manually, which is kind of annoying. Bluetooth support, not applicable. And in tablet mode, the keyboard turns off and the touchpad turns on, like the other operating systems. My overall impression is that it's usable. Showstoppers for me were casting and the HDMI out not working as expected. Now, would I recommend this? Probably only for gaming. So unlike the other two, you don't have that annoying setup nonsense to worry about. So apparently I had lost a bunch of the footage as well during the shooting of this video, mostly PrimeOS footage. And that was a real kick in the bum. Back at the boot menu here, I couldn't get PrimeOS to show up over the HDMI connection. Apparently you can edit the grub bootloader and add 2 video options for that, but I struggled to even get it edited, and I didn't want to make this into a whole thing because this is basically just showing you stock vanilla installs without having to do any hacks. Okay, so editing the grub bootloader is beyond the scope of this video, but apparently it is possible to get the dual displays running. Okay, in the boot menu, the next bonus OS that I'm gonna do is BlissOS. So let's see how that works out. Auto install to specified hard disk. So for BlissOS, the auto rotate does work. There is a setting for it. The HDMI out does work. The Ethernet adapter works. Touch screen does not work for some reason. It may if you change some settings. Play Store support, yes. Native bridge support, yes. Does the Wi-Fi work out of the box? Yes. Power buttons all work. But for some reason, they stopped in the middle of what I was doing, and I have no idea why. I'm assuming it doesn't have to do this every time you boot up. The volume buttons do work, and the rotation lock button functions as the home button. The regular audio and HDMI audio does work, but you got to manually adjust it. The install time was 9 minutes and 5, being the biggest or the highest of all of them. The first boot time was 6 minutes and 33 seconds. Oof. And the second boot time was 1 minute and 51. But I did get a black screen for a while, so I'm not sure what was going on there. The responsiveness was pretty chuggy and slow. The built-in camera works. The built-in mic works. Brightness controls work. The SD card reader works. And Angry Birds and Hilltop Racing also work. The Alt-Tab behavior turns on the app scroller. Casting to the TV and device also works without issue. The on-screen keyboard pop-up, I have no idea. I couldn't get anything to go, so maybe it does work, maybe it doesn't. Boring droid, okay. What's a boring droid? Enable PC mode, okay, well, I guess. Bluetooth is not applicable, and like the others, when you put it into tablet mode, the keyboard turns off and the touchpad stays on. My overall impression is not very nice at all. I was struggling with this more than any of the others except for the Play Store issue on Android x86. And the showstopper for me was definitely the touchscreen. Without the touchscreen, it's completely useless to me. So, would I recommend it? No, it needs work. This wasn't a very blissful experience. So, while doing the editing, I noticed that the Google sign in was showing you the password letters as I typed them in. Hooray! Whose wonderful idea was that? Okay, we're gonna agree. Back up. Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna I'm just gonna do it. All right. So this seems to be working now. The real question is, can we play a game? So let's try top rated games. Let's try Angry Birds. Why not? How big is it? Doesn't matter. Nice and fast downloads on my fiber connection. I don't have anything too crazy like gigabit, but it's fast enough. All right, let's open it up. Let's open up the Angry Birds. Viewing, got it. Okay, squawk. Sure, why not? Angry Birds 2. Wow, this is slow. Except okay, I'm not hearing any audio. Let's do something. Whoop. Do I not know how to play Angry Birds? Apparently not. All right, well, let's see if I can get the audio working. Tell you the truth, I'm not liking this at all. Even though a lot of the features are the same, it just seems harder to navigate. Okay, well, native bridge is on, obviously, otherwise Play Store wouldn't work. At this point in the process, I was getting kind of frustrated with BlissOS, and there was that pesky audio issue starting to creep back into the video that I was recording, unknown to me again. Suffice it to say, I don't think BlissOS is what I was going for. Okay, well, I know one way we can test sound. We know it wasn't working in Angry Birds, but interesting. We got Firefox. Okay, YouTube. Install. No, TikTok, the evil TikTok app. No thanks. So Firefox turned out to be dropping a lot of frames as well. As you can see from this scene, I was starting to really have some major audio issues. So I've basically just cut it right out of the video altogether here. Straight. Okay, BlissOS is not blissful at all. So, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Sorry. No. Wow, it's dropping a lot more frames with Chrome than the YouTube app. So, yeah. And another thing I was doing was testing the audio. As you can see from here, it is working based on the footage on the screen. However, the audio was too bad that I couldn't recover it at this point. I also did USB testing as well to make sure the USB was working on each of the operating systems, and they were. So this pretty much covers the video. Unfortunately, I really wanted to showcase each operating system more thoroughly, but because of all the issues I was having, I was not able to do that. So instead, I've decided to show you some footage of me upgrading the spinning Rust hard drive to an SSD drive. And after doing that, it made things a lot nicer to use. And just so you know, I eventually settled on Android x86 for my needs because there are some apps I need off the Play Store. Uh, which are not actually games. So I'm going to be using this more in a business setting and maybe as a teleprompter as well. Thank you for listening and watching this video. Do like and subscribe. And in the meantime, have a gander at how I did the install for the Lenovo Yoga SSD drive.